And they become the developers. They become the strip mall developers. Government puts strip malls in on property. There's something very wrong in that picture. Government-owned property should be used for government purpose, for public purpose, or it should stay green.
Thank you, Mr. Hetty. Mr. Moeller.
I believe that that when you sell property that the city owns, it's final, and the finality of that sale, the profit would have to strongly justify getting rid of an asset like the two properties in question. I don't see any problem with leasing land in that in the same regard as selling, because you don't lose the land. You're still generating some decent income, and you have the land to do with what you want at the end of the lease. So I would not be for necessarily selling that land unless it was justified, and would consider seeing lease situations take place.
Thank you, Mr. Moeller. Mayor McDonald.
One of the reasons why everyone loves Vero Beach so much is because of the green space that we have within the city. And once developed, our green space is gone. And we need to protect the vacant land that we have for our parks, and so our children and their children will have places to walk and play, because once it's developed, it won't be there anymore. And I really strongly believe that the city should not compete with the private sector in terms of developing. I don't think the city belongs in the developing business. And I think that our land in the city is what makes our city very special, and we need to preserve it and hold on to it.
Thank you. Councilman White.
Thank you, Steve. We all seem to forget sometimes that the city is a business. We own property all around the airport. We lease that property so small businesses can get a start, and they come out and they help the tax base. They come out and they help themselves by building up their small businesses. We just approved, as a council, to make it an enterprise zone. The enterprise zone is to help where they get relief from the state if they have hired 10 or more employees. So it also not only generates an economic development, but the city is helping in the long run. But it's also making a return. The airport does not take any funds from the general fund out of our tax base. They are so self-sufficient because of this. That's one example. The green space, people said we want the Dodgertown, we do not want it developed. We listened to them. We bought that property to keep it green. No matter what we do, it's going to be for recreational purposes or whatever, we will keep that property. But I definitely believe that we do not sell property. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Everybody's answered that question, right? All right, we'll move on to the next one. In your opinion, what are the 3 most important issues that we'll be facing in the next 2 years for the city of Vero Beach? Mr. Daigle?
The 3 important, number 1 is our power plant. Number 2 is our vision plan and getting that implemented. And how is the growth that's going on around out in the county going to impact our city?
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Hetty?
3 most important issues that I see facing the city and the citizens. The power plant. We need to take control of the power plant and deliver economical, cost-effective electric to our citizens. We need to, the second pressing issue is the traffic. We need to see what we can do to make sure the traffic flows easily along the corridors without making them wide, high-speed bypasses, and that's possible. And the third issue that is most important to taxpayers is tax. And we need to see what we can do to run our government efficiently. Instead of being out there thinking we're the biggest business in town and what can we do to make the next big business deal and what can we do to make the next development deal, we need to get out of that. Government needs to supply essential services to its citizens, and government needs to do it cost effectively. We need to keep our tax rates low.
Thank you, Mr. Heddy. Mr. Moeller?
I think the three biggest issues facing the city over the next 2 years are, of course, and number one on everyone's list is the power plant and what decision we're going to make with that power plant. And I would think that built into that are two things. Number one, that you find the facts and don't suppose anything, and we do our research. And the second biggest issue that's going to be facing us is, or the second biggest thing that we can do is to be creative with finding some additional money in our budget and some money to help us financially and be creative financially. The third thing is like Ken said, implementing the vision plan, but being responsible about implementing the vision plan. You know, some of the fellow candidates will tell you that they'd like to see us jump head first into the vision implementation, and financially we're just not ready to do that with huge decisions in front of us on the power plant. We've got to take it slowly and we've got to plan it out over a period of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moeller. Mayor McDonald.
Well, certainly the power plan, as everyone else has stated, and also I believe that we need to measure the impact that the county's growth will have on our city's infrastructure, and we have to make very careful decisions about that and do a lot of research on that and work with the Department of Transportation. Thirdly, the visioning to maintain the quality of life that we all enjoy. And I think those are probably the three most that everyone else has mentioned first and foremost.
Thank you. Do you concur, Mr. White?
Of course. The electric company, of course, is our #1 priority right now. Our recreation department also has a $2.4 million budget that we have in recreation, and we need to see what we're going to do with that. If we have duplicate services with the county, try to work out with that. Our vision plan is very important that we start implementing. We start off by changing some of the ordinances and tightening up and keeping the quality of life that we want, which also takes in the growth around us and the roadways coming in and out of Vero Beach. So we have some major things we got to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman.
Preserve the quality of life and small town character of Vero Beach by implementing the vision plan. The vision plan is written. There are a few areas of the vision plan that need further work in terms of implementation, but some of the vision plan can be written up, new ordinances as written. Second, power plant, power transmission, that has to be addressed, and I think that we can address that certainly in the time that we have. And the third thing, and maybe one of the most important things on my agenda, is communicate with the other municipalities in the county relative to the growth and the effects that it's going to have on all the municipalities, including Vero Beach, and get other interest groups involved in the discussion. And I think that that can happen, and I'm already working on it.
Thank you. I'll tell you, if we can all agree as much after the election as we do before the election, it's going to be a breeze this next 2 years. The next question. Understanding, and speaking of the power plant, understanding that the council must explore all options. What do you feel are the most attractive options for the power plant transmission issues at this time? We'll start with Mr. Heddy.
I do not believe that there's an investor out there that wants to come in, buy the power plant, get a return on their investment, make a profit, and then sell us back electricity below cost. That's not going to happen. Every time we look at the power plant and we look at the people that run it now, we find that we have good people there, that they keep the power plant up, they run it efficiently. If you go over and visit the power plant, you see that we have very talented, very qualified people. We need to regain control of the power plant from FMPA. The city and the people need to be in charge of that plant, and we need to deliver to our citizens cost-effective, reliable electric service. There is no reason at all why we can't do that, own the power plant, and deliver cost-effective, reliable electric to our customers.
Thank you, Mr. Heddy. Mr. Moeller.
I believe that to have an opinion or a solution at this point is not only irresponsible, it's an uneducated opinion and decision, and in my opinion, we have got to collect all of the facts to make this decision. The process is in its infancy. We have just recently started to look into a base case scenario. Once that base case scenario is developed, we can then move forward with the fact-finding process necessary to make the right decision for the future of Vero Beach. That must be the process that we take into this decision. The facts must be taken into consideration to the utmost effect. We must do our research, educate ourselves, and then 6 months from now, a year from now, as Sabe said earlier, we'll be able to make an educated answer to that question.
Thank you, Mr. Moeller. Mayor McDonald?
I believe that public power utilities who own generation as well as distribution resources have two advantages. First, we will have a measure of control over our utility costs and rates. And secondly, in the event of a hurricane, we can expedite response time in getting everyone's electricity up and running. However, the costs and benefits of keeping it must be very, very carefully measured. And all the options, as Mr. Moeller indicated, must be very carefully weighed. And most importantly, I think we need a lot of public input. After all, this is our public power utility, and we need a lot of public input to make this monumental decision.
Thank you. Councilman White?
Thank you, Steve. Our power plant is our lifeblood for the city. We have owned the power business for a while. It contributed $6 million to our ad valorem taxes. The power plant is built where it's been efficient. We've had on the last 3 years on the books to put afterburners on the stacks to burn our turbines more efficiently. The hurricanes have set us behind the 8 ball. We lost our cooling towers during the storms. We've had to do some replacements, water coolers. We have upgraded everything. One of the suggestion that we're doing now is we're going to open the power plant back up to the public. We haven't had it open since 9/11. And we're going to let them take tours to go through it to see what kind of equipment that we've got there in turbines. And I think it's important that the public be part of the process. And I think once they see how their power plant is built and what we have and what we can do for them, and especially the control, like was just mentioned as far as during disasters and everything, be able to get power back up, and also to get businesses that we will end up keeping it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Abel?
I think through our Utilities Commission and other people in the community who are very knowledgeable in this field, that we will have a lot of input into exactly what options are the most attractive and make sense for Vero Beach. I still think, as I said before, that the popular opinion at this point, I think, is to maintain the power and transmission and therefore keep control and give ourselves an opportunity to get back together after storms, and we are expected to have higher storm frequency for the next 10 to 15 years.
Thank you. Mr. Day?
Concerning our power plant, as a city, I would like us to be self-sufficient. In our agreement, one of the options is you stand alone. And we are in a time frame right now with the 5 years where we back out of the agreement, and that's where the 6 options come in. And through those 6 options, one has to be picked that has a bunch of little options underneath. But mainly what I'm looking for and what I would work towards is standing alone where we can make the decisions as a city. You know, once we get our input, we have from our citizens, we have a wealth of knowledge in this community with retirees. They've been in the power business, they've chaired different boards. We can get a lot of input from them where we don't have to keep hiring, you know, a pile of consultants to give us the information. Yes, we do have to have consultants in certain issues, you know, concerning the power plant. But I want our city to be self-sufficient. Everywhere that I go, on the mainland and on the island side, people are asking, look, please do everything you possibly can to hold on to our power plant.
Very good. Thank you. You know, we're making some pretty good time through this, so if you all don't mind, you know, we'd said we'd ask 5 questions, and I think we can slip another one in there before we get to the direct questions, if that's fine with everybody. All right. What is your opinion of the consolidation of city services with county government services, and does it offer a tax savings benefit? Mr. Moeller?
I think that the city should stand alone from the county. I think that as the county seat, we have some important issues that we deal with on our own from a financial standpoint, and that we should deal with on our own. From a financial standpoint, I have not done the research to know the answers to that question, but I do think that from a purely issue standpoint, that we should stand alone from the county.
Thank you. Mayor McDonald?
That would be a very dangerous precedent to set at this particular time. The city of Vero Beach was established in 1919, and if you look at the difference between our beautiful city, which is pretty small, we have approximately 17,000 residents. We have our own police department, our own water and sewer department, our own transmission and distribution department, our airport. We have a lot of, and the power plant, not to forget that. And we certainly have a great many employees that work together as a cohesive group. And frankly, we would not like to, as far as I can see, be taken over by the county. They have a great deal, many growth issues that we can become independent of within our city. We deal with redevelopment as opposed to developmental issues.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman White.
Thank you. Consolidation of services. I don't believe that the city of Vero Beach should, only because, number one, city of Vero Beach has one of the highest quality of life. We have 3.2 police officers per capita, highest in the area. We have a much faster response time than a lot of other law enforcement agencies. And our people want that. Our citizens demand that. We also have our sanitation, our garbage pickup. We have rear door pickup in the city of Vero Beach. We offer more to our citizens because we do have our enterprise funds to help support the tax base. So consolidating, we are very independent. We own our own airport, we own our own cemetery, we own our own marina. We do have a lot of services and benefits for the citizens of the city, and I think the city should maintain that.
Thank you. Councilman.
I'd listen to anything, but I'm not for consolidation. We have a lot of good employees, and they do good work for us, and they help us get back on our feet and keep us going day to day, and that's the way I think it ought to stay.
Very good. What do you think, Mr. Daigle?
What do I think? Let me put it quite simply and very plainly. I am not interested in having our city folded into the county. This is a very unique city, and not under my watch. We talked about 25 years into the future. I don't want to be part